But why is Britain experiencing such extreme weather? And is it just something we need to get used to, or have we seen it all before? Joining me now is stargazer and weather watcher Mark Thompson, and from Weather Action, forecaster Piers Corbyn. Mark, tell us, this weather we're experiencing now, it seems extraordinary, is it?
Well, I think we all forget we have weather. We've got kind of rose-coloured or rose-tinted glasses with the weather of our youth, where we remember the nice hot summers and the bad winters. But I think we've always had extreme weather. And of course, let's not forget that the driving force of weather is the sun. The sun's the thing that gives off heat and light in our solar system. That energy heats up the surface of the Earth. That, in turn, heats up the atmosphere. And, of course, you get air rising as it expands and it warms. And where you get air going up, it's got to come down again at some point. So you get high-pressure areas and you get low-pressure areas. And it's the movement of those around the Earth that drives our weather system. And just recently, the jet stream, which is a sort of a high-altitude, very fast wind, has been moving, doing some things that it doesn't normally do, and it's been dragging low-pressure systems over the UK that we don't ordinarily get to see, and so we've been getting this extreme weather.
Piers, you're a forecaster with, I'd say, an 85% success rate in terms of predicting, forecasting weather.
A long time ahead, yeah.
A long time, yeah. So what system do you use? What's the basis?
Well, we base our forecasts on solar activity. That's particle and magnetic effects from the sun.
Yes. It's all based on the sun.
And those, we can predict the events on the sun which will move the jet stream and change the weather patterns. So, for example, we predicted that very cold December 2010, the coldest for 100 years.
Why are you more successful?
And this very wet summer.
Why are you more successful than the Met Office, for instance?
Because they believe only that the weather controls the weather. And so they see what happened yesterday and they predict it forward in time.
So
but
do you
the
feel
sun
you've proved
changes
that
it.
The sun changes it? So,
absolutely, yeah, we proved it, yeah.
How can you do that? I mean, are we talking... Does history repeat itself, then?
Basically, there's nothing new in the weather. What's happening now is very similar to what was happening preceding the Little Ice Ages, which happened in the early 1800s and the late 1600s. And as far as we're concerned, that is where the world is heading now. It's cooling, heading towards a new Little Ice Age. We've had a lot of big hail events, big hail, wet summers, colder spells in winters, and more fluctuations in the jet stream, which are all characteristics of these changes.
But, Mark, we're being told that it's global warming. We've been told we're all getting warmer. Yes. So is that not the case?
Well, it's a very, very difficult subject, and I think if you look at the Earth in relation to the rest of the objects in the solar system and indeed the further galaxy. I mean, the galaxy has got these spiral arms which have got interstellar dust in, so when we travel through those darker parts of the spiral arms with that dust, we get less of the energy from the sun because there's dust there blocking it. As Piers has just said, the sun varies in the amount of light and energy it gives off.
And particles.
And indeed particles. It's not just stuff that we see and feel, but it's invisible stuff that causes the aurora, the northern lights.
Now, can I just stop you there? Because we don't get any of this science. We just get, we are responsible for global warming, the Earth is going to get hotter, the seas are going to rise, the polar ice caps are melting, and it's all down to us.
And then, Alan, they tell you to pay taxes on the back of that. Of course, it is a story. Look, these stories come from the same people who told us that by the end of this decade, we just finished, we'd have no more snow in Britain and we'd have summer droughts, summer after summer. We've got the opposite. Their claims have completely failed. Their science has to join the dustbin of history.
Well, will they then say that this is just a blip and you wait?
Well, of course they will.
Yeah.
Of course they will.
But
we can predict things and they cannot.
But if you believe this, you're told that you're a flat earther, you're a climate change denier.
Well, maybe the Earth is flat, who knows?
I disagree with that one.
No, I disagree with that. No. The Earth is not flat, I agree with that. But, you know, of course, but the test isn't, you know, who's an expert, who's in charge, who's got qualifications. The test is what predictions work. And the CO2 theory predictions have failed completely.
The key thing here is this is all science. This is all science. And the key fundamental thing about science... Right. Meteorology is a science, always has been. The key thing about science is about you have a theory, you test it against observation, you find that it doesn't fit with observation, change the theory to fit with the observation. You can never prove a theory, but you can disprove a theory. So, all you're doing really is looking at the circumstances in the solar system. So the sun, the moon, the presence of the moon affects it as well. and how that affects the weather conditions we get, and just plotting that back in time and just comparing that to what we're seeing today.
But you see, they will tell us that CFCs that we use, that greenhouse gases, that our city heat and industrialisation is what is causing global warming. How do you argue against that?
There's a really interesting analogy on the planet Venus. Venus has got a very thick atmosphere, and it's almost got a runaway, what word is that?
Well,
runaway greenhouse effect. Its surface temperature is 500 degrees.
Yeah.
Because it's got gases in the atmosphere that trap sunlight. No human beings living on Venus. So there are natural processes, volcanic processes, other geological processes, and of course the effect of the sun, which have caused Venus to have this. Well, it is much closer to the sun. So Venus has experienced a greenhouse effect that we're being told about, and there are no humans that live there.
But you see, we are now all paranoid, really, about global warming. We're worried to death whenever we light a fire in the grate. Whenever we do anything, you know, a new conurbation which will release more...
I don't think that's a bad thing to do. You
so
know,
we can be
I think it's sensible to think about what we're doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have got a responsibility to our future generations, and, you know, we don't know what effect that's going to have.
Pollution, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, sulphur dioxide and things like that are bad, but carbon dioxide is actually a good thing. It makes plants grow better.
Yeah.
More CO2, and there's been a lot more CO2 in geological history, and no runaway greenhouse effect, and been cooler times in more CO2. CO2 is a good thing. It makes plants grow more.
So this whole global warming thing, you think, is just contrived?
It's contrived, yes.
I think it is, but I don't necessarily think we're causing it. I think absolutely the environment will get warmer.
Because between all those
not
ice ages millions of years ago, we had warm tropical periods, and we weren't around then at all.
No.
There you are, that's put the cat among the pigeons, hasn't it, really? Some believe it, some don't believe it, but this is very interesting to hear the other side, isn't it?
You wanted to know about the weather next week as well.
I do. What's the weather next week going to be then? Tell us next week, very quickly.
The end of October is probably going to be very cold and snowy, but during October we're going to have some very big contrasts, and come on our website and see more.
So
I want
warm
to know
weather...
about a white Christmas.
A white Christmas?
Too early.
If you invite me along in November, I'll tell you.
All right, OK, well, it's further in advance than anybody else can do. My thanks to Mark Thompson and Piers Corbyn. Thank you very much.
Thank you.